Coleman at DuBois_22.
I'm Jeff Bell at For Whom J. Bell Tolls.
And I'm Christian Williams at C. Williams NFL, and this is the Devy Royale.
I do this day in and day out, all night long. Yeah. This all I think about. This all I care about. Y'all all I care about. Let's go, man, it's here. We televised, so you know we gotta show out. Yeah. They talking junk, so you know we gotta put them to sleep. Yeah. Let's go, man. Let's go. Don't play. Go. We do this every day. We work too hard, day in and day, like I told y'all. They don't do what we do. They don't do what we do. They never done what we did.
Off to the races. Can they catch it? No, they can't. Touchdown.
Welcome to another episode of the Devy Royale, a member of the Going for Two family. Today on the show, we're going to be doing a Devy breakdown on three of the top SEC West teams, a pick up a mashup sports events, our top 5 2023 running backs, and discuss the best and worst traditions in college football. But before that, we're going to go over some transfer news that were pretty, kind of crazy. We have some issues with some Fantasy Pros articles because we didn't know Jake Smith transferred. And I'm also wearing this trash jersey, Ohio State J.K. Dobbins jersey. I love Dobbins, and I got this from Austin and the guys over there. But I lost the shame, wheel of death, whatever, and I'm stuck in this jersey for an hour. So this is my pain, is I have to be in this damn red, and we're just gonna lively it up, I guess, and live it up over here. So that's my punishment, is wearing Ohio State jersey. Guys, how are we doing? And let's go over to our transfer portal chaos and what's going on over there. So, Jeff, what do you think about Jake Smith, Malachi Wideman, USC, all this whole nonsense?
Jake Smith is shocking. Obviously, Christian and I published the article, and we were talking about Jake Smith potentially stepping forward as the lead receiver at Texas. Now, all of a sudden, he's not at Texas. So, that came out about the day that we published, and we missed the update. So, shout out 24/7 transfer portal. Somehow we all set the notifications, but we missed it. It is what it is. It is surprising. He's the number 8 wide receiver, according to 24/7, in the 2019 class. So, this is not some random guy that just dropped out and going to a different school. And, we've talked about it. We mentioned it several times. We're coming up on a deadline here on July 1st. And so, obviously, Jake Smith, he's had some practices. He realized maybe things aren't going to go quite the way he expected. I think I'd love to hear what guys you think are going to step forward in Texas. But then I was surprised.
Yeah, I'm with you, because Jake Smith, I actually wrote that part of the article. Someone, I think it was Teddy. It might have been Teddy. Someone asked us, didn't he enter the transfer portal? And Yes, he did. But we had written that before. Jake Smith's a guy that I really like. I definitely think that he will go somewhere and he will get some playing time. Of course, he's probably not going to a big name school, Alabama, Ohio State, probably not. What he might do is go to a lesser Big Ten or SEC school. That's what I would hope, at least. I hope he gets a chance to play, because I think he can win in the short to intermediate. I think he was going to be really, really good for those younger quarterbacks there. And now, they've got a young group of wide receivers. Kevin, who do you think's really going to step up out of that group?
I like Troy O'Meary. I think that's how you say his last name, O'Meary. I know Felix Sharp really likes him, and I do too. I kind of comped him to Des Bryant-ish, light. I think he's got that physical strength. I really like him from that depth chart. But after that, there's some question marks, right? That, you guys wrote the article on it. I like him. there. I'm surprised that Smith did go and he left. I'll let you guys talk about who else you think from that. But I do think Smith, he's from Arizona, we could see him maybe getting back. I mean, Arizona State's been, giving out some recruiting gifts, but Arizona is definitely recovering. They need a lot of talent. Like, we could maybe see him transfer back there. You get a lot of playing time, and that's somewhere that I think could help him for his NFL prospects and for C2C, Devy purposes. That would be a good spot. Get him as much production as he can. But I really like Troy O'Mary. Jordan Whittington is going to be good too. But they definitely have some long shots there on that roster.
Yeah. And the big question will be what kind of usage Bijan Robinson gets, I would imagine. We saw Najee in Sarkisian's offense just kind of dominate and be used in the passing game. And so if he's one of the primary receivers.
Bijan's about to get 400 carries.
Yeah. What about Malachi Weidman? Do you guys know anything about Malachi Weidman?
Well, I heard that he was going to be transferred.
I don't know.
He's a basketball player. Yeah, I heard that he wanted to transfer because he wanted a better shot basketball-wise than football-wise.
It's probably on my C2C roster. I probably should double-check that, so that sounds about right.
I don't have too much to say about that.
All right.
I will say he's very talented. Like, when he was getting drafted a couple years ago, it was based on his athletic ability. So he has athleticism, but that's that basketball football crossover. I know there's some guys that got burned by this because Weidman was someone that was getting drafted pretty high because of his talent and stuff. But I don't know where he's going to go. I'm not 100% sure on there. But I think you bring up a good point in the notes, and I definitely want to talk about it. So USC signed 9 players from the portal. And you put the question, is this changing recruiting as we know it? What do you think, Jeff? I mean, for me, I think it's a 1-year thing, right? Because it's the 1-year portal thing, and then they have to. But we're going to see more of this?
I think that maybe it might be a situation where a new coach comes in and they've got the recruiting class before, and things kind of fall apart with that recruiting class from the old coach. New coach kind of keeps a couple of guys and then reaches out into the portal and builds that depth so that they can have some immediate success. And I think that's where you're going to see a lot of it coming in is, not wanting to just kind of sign guys when you can pull into the portal and sign starters potentially. It does seem like questionable about who's still sitting in the portal. Is there going to be enough spaces for these guys? And, I think it's one of those things where if you're a Texas recruit or something like that and you hit the portal, I don't know that you're necessarily want to go to Arkansas State, type thing. You get used to that blue blood life, and you might be wanting to go to another blue blood, and that roster spot is not going to be there. But I'm curious do you think it would be a scenario where a coach might actually, have that strategy of just kind of signing veteran guys and building that way?
I personally think that the smaller schools are going to live off that. I think your group of fives, even mostly it's going to be your lesser big conference Power 5 schools, I think, that are going to take advantage of it. But I think you could look at some of those smaller schools. Hopefully no receivers go to Arkansas State. That's apparently where receivers go to die. Shout out Omar Bayless and Jonathan Adams. But I think that coaches are going to use that as an advantage because these guys obviously felt the need to transfer. We talked about that quite a bit, Jeff, on that episode where we discussed kind of the landscape of the transfer portal. And I don't know, I guess I just didn't expect this kind of wide. I guess I didn't really know that this push was going to come. I think there's a chance we still see a couple more guys that just aren't cutting it in practice that decide to go elsewhere. I think it could be a long-term thing that stays, though, because I think with name, image, and likeness stuff coming out too, I think they want to build their own brand. It's kind of like us and Twitter, like you've been talking about today, Jeff.
I love it. I love that. I love that shade that was thrown right there. So Daniel Jeremiah tweeted out this, and I want to hear what you guys think about this. So he says, every college football program should already have an NFL style personnel department, a high school recruiting side, and a transfer portal side, draft and free agency. So unfair to grade a recruiting class alone because you need to look at the portal additions. Could we see, I'm sure college football programs already have a portal department, but are we going to see this grow even more to where that's part jobs, we're putting money into it, a portal side? Jeff?
I think it's already there. You look at Ohio State. I'm going to mention Ohio State because Kevin is wearing that beautiful jersey and he looks fantastic. We've seen them. They signed Justin Fields. They signed Trey Sermon. They signed Jonah Jackson. One of those things where, we've got an immediate hole. We can go out and pluck one of these guys. It's always, college football is always going to be the haves and have-nots. And so if you got a program like Alabama, you got a program like Texas A&M that can sit around and have a staff of 12, 15 working on recruiting versus you got your guy down in Arkansas State, you got one or two guys and an intern maybe, and they're trying their best to cover everything. And so certainly because we've seen at the top the way that it's run like a business, the way it's already almost run like an NFL franchise, those blue blood programs are going to have people that are reaching the portal. I'm certain that those conversations are going on, guys that they recruited out of high school that didn't necessarily sign but might fill a need. And so, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Go ahead, Christian.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Ohio State's a good example, but all these guys are doing it. Saban especially is good at this, and he was especially good this year, I think. He plucks guys that, maybe he didn't even recruit, but he's seen the talent. I think what you're going to see is a guy transfers out and they might realize that they messed up and they just end up going back to their original school. I think we're going to see some of that too. I think that's going to get pretty wild, especially if they're there for a couple years, build some relationships. I see Ohio State players recruiting someone who just entered the portal, a linebacker, I think. They're trying to get him to come back. And I think that's an interesting thing too, because now you've got college players helping with recruiting. And it's just a very interesting dynamic that we have never seen. Kevin, I'm interested your thoughts on this.
Well, I'm thinking I can find a job out of this, guys. Like, I feel like I can go get, I could be recruit or transfer portal guy for Cal Berkeley. Hit me up, Cal. I could find you some talent. Like, it's not that hard. I got the Devy dashboard and all these things. I got Campus to Canton, websites, resources. I can figure this out. So I'm going to try to get a job out of this, but I think it's true. But I think the reality, the rich are going to get richer, and those poor schools that are nothing are just going to get screwed. But that's kind of the reality, right? And I think the group of five and the Power Five is just going to get wider and wider. And at a certain point, we might see playoffs for both rather than one major NCAA playoff. But before, without further ado, let's break down. So what we're going to be doing is we did our teams last week. We looked at our, Liberty, Coastal Carolina. We looked at those type of teams. And then this week, we're going to start in the SEC. So, we're going to be looking at big-time programs with big-time legitimate shots at the championships first and doing a big Devy breakdown on it. And so Jeff's going to take it away with Texas A&M, someone who I looked at really recently on a YouTube video closely. So I'm interested to see what he has to say about these guys. So, Jeff, why don't you tell us about Texas A&M and what did you see with them?
Yeah, we've talked about it in past episodes, in various different episodes. This might be low-key the most talented team in college football, I believe, especially from a Devy landscape. Schedule breakdown, the biggest game is October 9th. It's a home game against Bama. And so anybody in the SEC West that's not Bama, the biggest game is going to be Alabama. And so they get them at home. A big thing, too, to consider on their crossovers, they're getting Missouri and they're getting South Carolina. So they're not seeing Georgia and they're not seeing Florida. So this team is very much primed for they're not going to lose before the Alabama game unless it's a major upset. If they win this game against Alabama at home, then you're looking at running through the end of the season, maybe Auburn or LSU, but hitting the SEC championship game as an undefeated team that's almost surely going to be in the playoff. Devy relevant players, I do expect that Haynes King is going to be the starting quarterback, and he's a guy that, I love to hit the Konami quarterback, but he's fast, and he's going to be in a great infrastructure. He's got Isaiah Spiller, who is all of our 2022 running back number 1, and Jalen Weidemeyer, our 2022 tight end 1. And so we've talked about both of those guys when we hit those classes. Anais Smith is transitioning to outside wide receiver because they just don't have the carries for him in the backfield because Spiller's going to be the guy. And then EJ Williams, I believe, is the other young back that's coming up behind Spiller there. Demond Demas is a big question, whether we're going to see him or not. So sleepers, I would say he probably more falls in the sleeper category, and Baylor Cupp as well. We kind of talked about him real quick on the tight end episode. He might never play college football, but at the same time, he's a guy that he could put together one strong season, and all of a sudden he's the tight end 3 in the 2022 draft. And so their outlook again, I mentioned it. I believe that they're one of the most talented teams in college football. And I think that everything is setting up perfectly for them to make a run towards the championship game. And so right now I have to say they're a dark horse national title team.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Kevin was first onto that. He's more intrigued by them than I personally am. I do think like they have a pretty easy path. But say they do lose to Bama, do they even have a shot after that? And that's fairly early in the season, right? So you said early October.
Yeah, October 9th.
So are we going to just kind of see what they are then? And then say they lose, do you think they still have a shot at even the playoff?
It's so open in college football. It's one of those that I don't know. I'm biased, so I don't expect Ohio State to lose. Whether or not Clemson really has anybody in their conference that's going to be beating them. I think Clemson plays Georgia. I feel like the first game of the season, and so that might be a big landmark game that puts these teams on different paths. And so I'll tell you right now, if they're sitting there 11-1 and a close loss to Alabama is their only loss, the network that hosts all the games and the network that hosts the selection show and the network that probably has a little bit of ties and balance in is going to be banging that drum very hard for Texas A&M to be in the number 4 team. We almost saw them sneak in this year.
Well, they got screwed this year. So, but that thing, well, to Christian's credit, though, I mean, I would worry about that. If they lost to Alabama like they did the last time, they still didn't get in over Notre Dame. And Notre Dame doesn't have a conference again. I think the ACC thing's done, right? So when you're looking at, they could have an easier route. I will say, as the Texas A&M guy, I guess, on the show, and I'm also an honorary Aggie now since I did my video today. Chris Stoops told me I could be that, which that's cool too. I'm moving over to them, so I'm sorry I'm going to bring my Michigan suck onto you guys. But as I watched Haynes, I will be honest, there's a couple things that worried me, and one was his release. It's questionable, and his arm is questionable a little bit too. Like, he makes some bad decisions, but I think they're going to lean on that running back room, right? Like Isaiah Spiller, Devin Achane, LJ Johnson probably going to get in there, Ainias Smith. Like, they're going to lean on those guys a lot. So if Damon DeMoss can just figure his shit out, like, please, because I have you on like every Devy roster I own. That dude is uber talented. Like, he is so talented when you watch him on the tape. But yeah, I think to Christian's credit, you got to worry about that. I just love their defense. Like, their defense is pretty stacked. Christian probably know more about that than I do. But when I watched them, they brought a lot of guys back. They have that running game. Like, they're SEC built, right? Like, when we're looking at the SEC, they have that build. So that's what I'm most excited about. What worries you about him, Christian?
Just a new quarterback. Honestly, like a lot of what we've seen out of the playoffs, college football playoffs, has been some guys that have been there before most of the time. Like, obviously you have your rare Trevor Lawrence. You had the Oklahoma guys getting in, but then we see kind of what they did. So even if they were to sneak in, I guess I'd be, I don't think they'll be a favorite in a playoff game. And so while I do agree that they are a dark horse team to get into the playoffs, I don't know that they really even have a shot. Because say they draw Oklahoma in their first game, I mean, I think they're toast. Now they do have a good defense, and I know how we all feel about Oklahoma, but Oklahoma also has a really good defense this year. So that's just like, I kind of think they've got a schedule that's easy, but is that really going to help them when they finally do get there? I don't know. But I do love Spiller, and I love the weapons that they have. I think they can be a very, very good team. And if there's a year to beat Alabama, it's this one. I think they could do it. So I'm not as concerned as maybe I was perceived to be at first, but they're exciting for sure.
I mean, I think it's really going to come out of that quarterback, like you said. Like, if Haynes can be the guy, then fine. But I mean, Kellen Mond wasn't that good, so let's,
that's fair.
I'm not a Kellen Mond guy, so I mean, they did pretty well. So, all right, let's go to another SEC West team, and that's Christian looked at LSU, so he's going to look at the Tigers here. Coach O, what does Coach O need to be worried about his job, Christian? What do we know about Coach O here? What's going on?
Well, I think Coach O probably could have been worried about his job for non-football reasons, but I think he's got a better team this year. I think what we saw in 2020 was fairly expected. we knew that they were going to have some sort of regression, right? And so it came, and everyone was shocked at how bad they were. Their schedule is a little tough, though. They have a 3-week stretch right at the beginning of the year against Florida, Ole Miss, and Alabama. And there's a chance that they lose all 3 of those games, in my opinion. Now, Florida, obviously, that would depend on Emory Jones, but there's a really good chance that LSU cannot compete. They do have 2 of the best corners in the nation, and everyone knows who Derek Stingley is. And so I think that gives them a fighting chance every week. But my worry is actually going to be on offense. But before that, they do get to finish the year with A&M, and I think A&M probably beats them then too. So it's kind of like they're a middling team that could be a little better, or they could be even worse than I would project them to be. Devy relevant players, quite a few. Obviously, it's LSU. They're a big program. They're going to have guys. Keyshawn Booty, is that how you say his name? Boutte. It's Booty on this show. Because no, he's really, really good. Some people have him as their Devy wide receiver 1, which I could probably hear that argument. He's a stud. Do you guys, is he in your top 5 for both of you?
He's either 5 or 6 for me, I think, but I probably need to look at it again.
Overall?
Yeah. Or at wide receiver.
No, wide receiver. Yeah, he's probably a 5, somewhere around there. If I had to kind of go, he's my number 1 in that class, but he's probably 4 or 5, somewhere in there.
Yeah, he's really good. I'm excited to see how he builds off just a really, really good freshman year. You've got Max Johnson. I don't know who's going to start here. From what I've read, Miles Brennan kind of has a shot to start, which is not good for Max Johnson. He came in, he struggled a little bit. We talked about him a tad. He doesn't really have the best arm in the world. And so I think they would be better off starting Miles Brennan. I don't think Miles Brennan's Devy relevant, though. I will say that. You've got a freshman wide receiver trio that I am very, very excited to see. Deion Smith, Chris Hilton, Jake Beck. These are, I think, all 4-star guys, but very, very highly ranked within their freshman class. I think they have opportunities to step right in and contribute because I think after Boutte, that room is fairly wide open. And then the running back room is freaking packed. And it's packed to the point that I don't even know who's Devy relevant yet because I need to see it on the field this year. You've got Tyrion Davis-Pierce, who's set to start. You've got John Emery Jr. probably behind him. But your guy, Corey Kiner, I think could come in and immediately compete for some snaps because I do think that if Emery Jr. was going to do it, he was going to do it already. So I think Kiner could see the field. And then outside of that, sleepers, the only one I could really come up with outside of the freshman that I already talked about that I think could get some work would be Grant Nussmeier. Now, this is a guy that he's pretty highly regarded. He's not going to see the field without injury, but if he does, I think that's someone to keep your eye on, even in C2C leagues. And then their 2021 outlook, like I said, they're very middling to the point that they could lose 4 games or they could lose 1 game. I think that's kind of their range of outcomes. And for that, I think that LSU fans are going to be fairly happy this year when you compare it at least to 2020. What are you guys seeing with LSU? Do you think I'm off base in saying that Miles Brennan should start over Max Johnson?
Well, I think there's a popular website that said Miles Brennan is one of the top returning college football quarterbacks. And so maybe there's people out there. My concern, I think you hit on it at the beginning. They have that start with Florida, Ole Miss, and Alabama. If they lose those games, Derek Stingley, is he cornerback 1 right now? He's got to be at the very top, I would think. And so close. And I know there's some stories that he might play offense too. My concern is that after they saw all the opt-outs last year, if he's the type of guy that he's going to say, you know what, we've already lost 3 games and I want to get my bag and I'm going to opt out. And if it's the type of thing where they're already 3 losses down and they start playing younger players and Derek Stingley leaves and this thing just falls apart. I think that Coach O caught lightning in a bottle. that 1 year where they had a whole bunch of guys that came back that could have gone. And we've seen this the last couple of years. Saw it was Alabama last year. LSU was 2 years ago. They caught lightning in a bottle. They might have had two of the best NFL receivers already on their roster. And I think Burrow got away with a lot of that. And, I think Joe Brady's an excellent coach, and he was there for that 1 year as the offense coordinator. And so I think it was one of those perfect storm years. Alabama, they were a little bit down, like kind of just like in transition at that point. And so they caught everything perfect. They went out, won the national championship. They got the easier game against Clemson in the title game because of some shenanigans that happened from the SEC officials. And so I do worry that if the wheels fall off, the wheels could fall off hard. And we start to see, I don't know that Coach O is a master of a college football coach. I think he's a great personality, and I think he's able to recruit. I think that you and I could recruit to LSU, though. And so I don't know. They concern me.
He's got a great voice.
Yeah. I laugh because Coach O could be like Gene Chizik from Auburn, where he had that good year and then it just disappeared. And they're like, hey, what's going on there? To your credit, I think if Miles Brennan is healthy, Coach O will go with him because he's the safer pick. I think that if let's say they lose the first game or a couple games, then we could see Max Johnson come there and maybe he'll do that. We talked about Max on the last show, so definitely check that out if you missed it. And I think there's some issues there with that. But I do like Corey Kiner. So he's 5'10", 210. He's a big kid. That running back room, though, is such a headache. I feel like everything on this team is a headache besides Boutte. Everything else is just who's going to start? Where are these guys going to go? I don't see Miles Brennan being a Devy asset. He's not. I don't care what that one website said that cannot be named on this show. But I'm not going there. Max Johnson's another intriguing guy for me on that too. Like I'm saying, he has his limitations, but he has that NFL pedigree like we talked about. I still think 8 wins probably pretty good barometer for this team, maybe around there.
Well, that website that you talked about said that they're definitely top 10. So I think
in the SEC West.
Nope. Top 10 in the nation. So I think 8 wins would be a good season. I think that would be a good season for them with that schedule.
Yeah, I think so too. So I think that's pretty good for LSU. We're gonna transition a little bit to probably the team everyone wants to talk about is Alabama. Alabama, and I'm going to go over them. And I went over a lot of stuff with them, and I looked at their schedule. If you look at their schedule, really, Miami, the first game, they're going to blow Miami out. It's going to be one of the – you remember when Jeff made me laugh on Twitter, which he usually does, unless he's looking for engagement, is the team – so Miami's there. And Jeff made me laugh when he's like, oh, people always talk themselves into beating Alabama until then when they're playing in Alabama and they're down 24-0 in the first quarter. And do you guys remember when West Virginia played Alabama a few years ago and everybody thought West Virginia was going to come out and beat them? And I think they were down 48-0 at halftime or something like that. That's what I feel like is going to happen with Alabama. They're going to make this narrative of Bryce and all this stuff. And they're going to probably come out and beat Miami. They play Mercer. Florida's there, and we'll see. Florida's in some turnover as well. Southern Miss, Ole Miss could be sneaky, but I don't know if Ole Miss's defense is even close to being able to do that. I think their offense could, but it's going to be a shootout like last year. And it comes down to that Texas A&M game to me. The Texas A&M game is going to be there. Mississippi State's not going to be good enough. Tennessee, no. LSU, who knows? Probably not, like we talked about. And then Auburn in the last game of the year, but they're still going through transitions as well. So if they get by Texas A&M, Alabama's probably going to go undefeated again. The guys, they're that good. That's just who they are. Those of you that are listening, you guys know what Alabama is. I laughed when I saw Devy relevant players. I think I'm just going to say everyone. Every single one of those guys, even Jalen Milroe, who's going to be probably their third string quarterback, is getting drafted right now as QB 48 in C2C leagues. So he's going to be definitely an option out there. Bryce is my guy. He's going as QB 4. Everybody knows how high I'm on Bryce. I want to see what he's going to be able to do this year. I'm excited to watch him play. Running back room is pretty crowded as well. Brian Robinson is getting touted as by that website that shall not be named, but really high. But Jace McClellan is the guy I think is going to be the guy you want to own in C2C and in just Devy. I think he's the outside guy. We're going to talk about him a little later, hopefully. But this class, Jace is the guy that I really like. And I feel like these other guys shot up, Bijan, Gibbs, and all these guys. It's because Najee Harris was in front of Jace, and he didn't really get that option yet. So I think he's a sneaky Devy kind of guy. Like if we're going to go sleepers, I think Jace is, because I think he could be running back 4 of this class, or maybe 3 before all said and done based on what he looks like and his profile. After that, Kamar Wheaton is there. We know that. Their wide receiver room is loaded too, and you're going to see a lot of different options in that wide receiver room. John Mechie, and I don't like Mechie as much as some do. I think his ADP is going a little high for me, but he's still a hell of a receiver. Slade Bolden is a great C2C option. I talked about him being like a late 45th round pick because he's going undrafted, but that dude's going to piss a lot of people off. I think Jeff talked about that one of the first shows that we talked about. He's just going to get a lot of targets. They use him, and he's going to get them, and it's going to make people mad. And then just, Trayshawn Holden there, Javon Baker. IG Hall is the guy that I love, 6'3", 195 kid. Hall is going to be a monster, and he had a great spring game, but that kid is so much fun to watch. And then JoJo Earl. I really like JoJo Earl. I know some people like Ja'Cory Brooks. Maybe you guys can have an opinion on him. But JoJo Earl, I don't know how fast he's going to get out there on the field, but if he does with his skill set, he might be the best for his size and where he looks at. He's like 5'9", 170. He might be the best athlete they've recruited at that position. And that means Waddle, that means Ruggs, all these guys that we've seen. He might be even better. In prep school, he had over 2,000 yards receiving, 2,500 yards receiving, and also 800 rushing yards and 15 rushing touchdowns. They lined him up all over the place. This kid he's a stud. Like, he's probably my favorite Devy asset to try to acquire. Tight ends, I'm not a big Jaleel Billingsley guy. I think he's going way too high at tight end 3 now that Eric Gilbert's not a tight end, thanks to Jeff drafting him. So now we have Jaleel being there. Not 100% sure what's going to happen there. But, sleepers, there's really no sleepers in Alabama. But for a guy that maybe is getting drafted lower than I think is Jace McClellan. Outlook, this is going to be championship or bust, right? That's kind of how this works. What do you think about Jace, Christian?
I think he's good. So I guess my follow-up question before I answer that, do you think Trey Sanders is dead? Like, not literally. I know he had an accident, so that's probably bad wording, but do you think he'll have any relevance at all, or do you think he's going to end up in the transfer portal probably next year?
When I watch him play, I just look at it. Well, it depends on Saban, because Saban sometimes leans on those older guys, and that's why I'm kind of worried about Brian Robinson a little bit too. But he also does a pretty good job of noticing, like, hey, I got to get my guy in here. And Jason, I think, is going to be that guy. It's kind of like the Teague and Sermon situation that we saw at Ohio State, I think. But then they didn't have that young kid that's really good like McClellan. So I think that he'll jump in there. I think he'll get some carries. Maybe he'll transfer, remember Jerome Ford, right? He transferred to Cincinnati. Maybe we see something like that. I'm not as high on Trey as I am on Jace, though. That might be where I'm coming from. Yeah.
No, I agree for sure. I like Jace's game. I think you're hitting the nail on the head when you say he's kind of the forgotten guy. The one comment that I wanted to make, I know it's probably early, but I think G.A. Hall might be the best Alabama wide receiver I've watched in a long time. I know we've seen just a spring game from him, but if he goes out there and he performs like that this year, you can say goodbye to most of those receivers. I think a couple of them are going to leave because he's going to be on the field for 90% of the snaps because he's got the potential to be that good. Jeff, are you kind of along the same mindset with both McClellan and Hall?
Absolutely. The big question will be how much do they play? So they're bringing in a new offense with Bill O'Brien, obviously, potentially new offense coordinator, and then bringing in a new quarterback. Are they going to lean towards the vets with, Bryce being the younger quarterback, or are they going to allow the young kids to play? Kevin didn't mention Jameson Williams moved to Alabama, and so, I think he's going to be playing. In the spring game, they used a lot of 2 tight end sets, and Cameron Latou is another guy that he's a more traditional tight end, and so I wonder if they're going to use him as their more traditional tight end in the Bill O'Brien offense, and then almost treat Billingsley as, like an H-back, move him around formation, move him outside, try to use different, get him out of linebacker, those type of moves. And so, it's exciting as much as it can be as somebody that doesn't root for Alabama and is actually roots for the opposite of Alabama. It's interesting to see what they're going to put on the field because, there are so many potential possibilities with the amount of talent that they have. And so I don't know, because I agree, but are they going to play the vets? And so I think that we're kind of, and we talked about it on our very first show. We talked about Alabama. We talked about Clemson kind of being in similar situations where they have some veterans there that you're not quite sure are really Devy assets or NFL players, but they've been in the program for a long time versus younger, more talented players. And how are they going to mix those type of things around? They're Alabama. They're going to be good. And so I don't know if there's a lot of drama to wait and see. I think you've hit the nail on the head talking about the Texas A&M game. Everybody's kind of, once we get close to the season, everybody will be waiting for that one. I'm sure that we'll try to talk ourselves into, not us, obviously, but some people will try to talk themselves into Miami being a game because that's just how those type of things work. But I think that they wouldn't be at Alabama if they weren't good for the most part, and they definitely wouldn't see the field at Alabama if they weren't good.
Yeah.
No, I think Hall, like to Christian's point, like Hall is wide receiver one in this class to me right now. Like, and I know you have all these different groups. We only saw a spring game, but he's so fluid. But the scary thing about him when I was breaking down his tape and going over him, he has so much to learn, and he's already so good. Like he's got a lot of fundamentally stuff like route running and things to work on coaching wise. And so he doesn't even have that yet. So when you add that to his skill set, it's going to be nuts. And like to Jeff's point, yes, they have a lot of guys, but we all know that Saban likes to win. So if he's on that field and he sees these young guys and he realizes what he has, it would not, he's the guy that took out Jalen Hurts in that halftime of the national championship game and said, "Hey, Tua, go." Like he's going to go with it. Like, and I think, we don't talk about that a lot, but just the balls it took for him to do that and be like, "Hey, sorry, Jalen, it's going to be Tua now." And then remember, Najee came in that game too, and that was when he was young, and they brought him in and said, "Nope, we're going to go with the young guys." So I think that's there. And honestly, if Hall turns out to be what I think he is, this wide receiver room in Alabama is going to rival Ohio State's wide receiver room. Like, I really believe with JoJo, Ja'Cory Brooks, Ajee Hall, those guys that are coming up, Xavier Williams, like some guys there. There's so many wide receivers I couldn't add them all to my graphic. That's how many that room is filled with guys. So it's going to be interesting to see. But like you said, like there's a lot of Devy. I would say there's more Devy assets at the freshman level than there are at the junior and senior level. Yeah. At the wide receiver room and probably the running back room, right? Sophomores in those groups. So anything else on these SEC West? Any predictions then? Do you feel like Alabama's the clear favorite?
You have to. They're Alabama. I don't know.
I know.
One of those that it's kind of like Belichick and Brady in New England, where every time that you think there's a little bit of a chink in the armor, they come out and it's 56-7. So it's one of those that until they're knocked off, they're the defending reigning champions. How many titles has Saban won now? And
too many
to pick a favorite. Yeah.
I just want to make a playoff. That's all I want to do over here. I feel like Christian wants to say they're going to be bad. Christian, can I poke you a little bit? Can you tell me that they're going to struggle?
I think this is going to be the year that we saw it a couple of years ago. They lost a game in the regular season. I think they ended up losing 2 that year, if I recall. I think we could see that again. I really do. I know you love Bryce. I think Bryce is going to be really, really good down the road. I think Bryce is going to have some things that we're going to need to see from him. And if he comes out and he balls, then yep, they're the favorite. But I do think there's questions on the offensive line too. I know we have to get going, but they've gotten so lucky with how well their offensive lines gel after losing pretty much the whole starting line into the draft. I don't know that they can continue being that lucky, but again, it's Alabama, like Jeff said, so they're probably going to win the Natty. So
that's all right. I just wanted to get a sound clip so I can clip it and then I can put it out there to Alabama Twitter and just so I can say, "Hey, look at Christian Williams here." All right,
make sure you put it on
Reddit. We want a sound clip. Yeah, no, Alabama is an overrated program this year that they're probably going to lose 3 or 4 games.
All right, I can't wait. I cannot wait for that. Bill like Bama is going to come after your ass tomorrow when I
bring it.
him.
Bring it.
He blocks me though.
And let's have a conversation.
He blocks me though, so I gotta go. I gotta do my burner for that one. All right, let's go to.
If they would have tested for COVID last year in Alabama in the title game, then it'd been a different situation. So I'm just saying.
I do love how Saban got COVID, but still coached on the sideline because he's just Saban. Like that's just who he is.
All right, it's been 4 days. He's good.
we can talk about this all night with Jeff. He's a salty
CBS,
Ohio
you got a
State
test.
fan.
Cool.
I feel it. Like this jersey's pulsating through my veins right now of the hatred that's coming through. All right, let's go to our 2023 top 5 running backs. I don't know about you guys, but when I have a bad day, I just turn on film of any of these guys, and they are fantastic. They are so much fun to watch. Every single one of them, and we could be talking about like running back 6 through 8 also having a role in this top 5 too. So I'm going to give Christian the easy one. We're just talking about Bijan Robinson from Texas. You mentioned him earlier. What do you see with Robinson that you really like, and just in general?
Everything. I mean, like the dude is elusive. People call him an Adrian Peterson clone, and I was like, man, that's pretty bold. And he is. Like when I watch him run, I think, man, that is Oklahoma Adrian Peterson. So you know, he's elusive, he's powerful, he can catch the football, he can make people miss. He's gonna be my top-rated running back probably that I've ever evaluated on the NFL draft side of things. So yeah, he's my number 1 Devy asset right now. The kid's freaking good. I don't have much to say.
Jeff, are you taking him number 1 overall? Like, I know we've been hearing this a lot about, would you take DJU? Would you take Bijan? Who are you taking?
In Superflex, I'm still going to take DJU, just
okay.
Leon Galele. So shout out to Tommy. I want to make sure to be respectful in that regard. You know, I think if there's one knock on Bijan, it's that he was supposed to be in Columbus, and then all of a sudden he ended up in Austin. So I don't know what happened there.
What is happening to this show tonight? This is the most Ohio State talk.
I'm just saying. They were leaders in the clubhouse, and then all of a sudden somebody went on vacation, and all of a sudden he's in Austin. So some family members got involved. Something happened there, but
okay.
I had to pick nets.
You know, the thing about him, well, he's not 6'7" or 6'11", he's 5'11". But I think the other underrated thing about him is that he has the ability to catch the ball. Like, he's a good receiver. Like, he does it all. Like, I think there's a pretty big tier break between him and the next guy, Gibbs. Like, I know some people think there's a chance for Gibbs could be running back 1. Based on their athletic profile, what I see, I don't see that. Like, there's a tier. There's a clear tier. Like, hey, Bijan's the guy, and he's coming for that spot. And the way that NFL has drafted guys, we haven't thought about maybe having a top 10 running back. But do you think Bijan Robinson could be a top 10 running back?
Yes.
Yeah.
He will be. You can clip that.
Okay. All right. I like it here. All right. Now we're going to talk about our second guy here. Hopefully he's not 6'11". That is Jahmyr Gibbs, 5'11", 200 pounds. You know, he had a 2020 season at Georgia Tech where he had 71 attempts, 355 yards and 4 touchdowns, 22 receptions, 277 yards and 2 touchdowns. Didn't get a ton of playing time, kind of like Bijan did. But when we talk about Gibbs, why don't you go and tell us what you like about Gibbs?
The biggest thing is the explosion in the usage in the passing game. I think that's one of the things that if you're going to pick nits between some of these guys, it's that they haven't been used in the passing game quite as much as he does. You know, we see him in the return game here showing that explosion as well. And so that's the thing that stands out. Being 200 pounds going into his sophomore year, he's still got some time to get up to that, it's kind of what we saw with ETN this year, where he got up to that 215 range when he weighed in finally. And we were kind of worried about him being more a 200-pound guy. And I don't know I don't know how much that plays in, but I do think that when we saw how some of the smaller backs were treated in the draft this year, I think he can build and be that body. But again, we're showing clips of him being used downfield in the passing game. And so I think that's the thing that stands out with his ability.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Go ahead, Christian.
My thing with him is, a lot of the same things. He's got great vision. He knows how to attack an angle and shut it down and then make the guy miss. And that's something, we talk about that and people will say, well, all running backs can do that. Obviously, the league doesn't value running backs. The league values running backs that can do it and then explode out of it, right? And so that's what Gibbs does. I actually think that after Bijan, there is a tier break. And then I think after Gibbs, there's also a tier break. I think he's kind of in his own sector there. At 2, I don't think he's ever going to rival Bijan, but I think he's a very, very good prospect. I think he's probably going to be a first-round pick as well. I think this is going to be a year we see maybe 3, maybe even 4 first-round running backs. Isn't that insane to say?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. Okay, I got a question for you, Jeff. Try to stay out of trouble on this one. So our guy Devy Kane recently today actually told me that if I thought Jaron Ely was too bad, or if I liked Gibbs, then I should love Jaron Ely. Do you agree with that statement?
Well, I mean, Gibbs is like 8-15. If Ely went to the hometown buffet and spent a little while there and got more bigger, Ely's so small. Isn't he like 5'8", like 175? Like, what are, what's your expectation here? Whereas I do think that Gibbs can build himself up to being that level that we want to see.
Yeah, no, I just want to have some fun with that. I saw it today and I was just like, well, those are very different profiles to me. And one also was going to play baseball. So I do like Gibbs. I think he's going to receiving work, his ability to make people miss. Like Christian pointed out very good. This is why Christian's better than me. Just his ability to set guys up and get by them and cuts. Like that really sets it apart. Like he cuts hard and you watch it and he's got good vision. Hopefully Sims is going to be better this year so that kind of the dynamic defenses won't just key on Gibbs and won't be able to see it. But I really like him there. We're going to go to our third guy, which again, give or take, I think we're all around this guy, is Tank Bigsby from Auburn. 6 foot, 204 pounds, 2020 season last year. He had a really productive year, 138 attempts, 800 yards, 5 touchdowns, only 11 receptions and 84 yards. He's currently going as running back 3 of this class, so that's kind of where he's going ADP-wise. With Bigsby, I can kind of start with him and we'll go around. I like Bigsby. He's a grown-ass man. That's how I'm going to describe him, first of all. Like, he does very good in and out of cuts. He does very good in traffic. He's athletic. He stays low. He puts his shoulder down, and he breaks tackles. Like if you're watching this on our video stream, you'll notice that his ability just to break tackles, arm tackles, and just he's strong. He puts his shoulder down. Like when I watch him run, it just makes me laugh just how strong he is. But he can also turn the corner. Like he has speed. Like he's got a good package. This run right here in particular, if you're watching it, just lowers the shoulder. Like I put it out on my Twitter. I was like, this is just a grown ass man running. Like he's just toying with these guys. Now I believe that was Arkansas, which is Arkansas. But at the same time, like he's a very good runner. I think he's a little closer than Gibbs maybe than Christian thinks. But what do you see with him, Christian, then that would make him be outside that tier a little bit?
I think he's fast. I do. I don't think that the long speed's quite to that same level. And I know some people think that that's the most overrated thing. And I probably should too. I had Javonte Williams as my RB1 for most of my process. But I think when you're analyzing prospects that are just really good in every aspect of the game, that will matter a little bit more. But he lives up to his name, man. He runs big. He does break a ton of tackles. My comparison for him would be like a faster, better Breece Hall, I guess I would say. More athletic Breece Hall. No offense to Breece Hall. I know I'm low on Breece Hall. But that's kind of what I see out of him. He's just a physical runner. Now, he's definitely a profile that the NFL is going to like. Definitely more than a guy that's 190 pounds, because by the time he's drafted, he's going to be 215, 220 probably, or he should be. And so, Jeff, what do you think of Tank?
I'm just laughing because I was thinking before you even said it, like I was thinking that he does kind of remind me of Breece Hall, and I think production wise, he could lead college football in rushing, and I don't know that anybody would be very surprised if that were the case. And I think you look at him in comparison to Gibbs and Bijan, and he's just not as toolsy maybe as those guys are. Whereas it's kind of almost the same thing with Spiller and Hall, where like the production profile and those type of guys are going to love Bigsby, I feel like, because he's just going to smash. And Harrison at Boise State, the offense was very balanced. They didn't lean one way or the other, but I do think that they're going to ride Tank. And I don't know, Bo Nix is kind of just get out of the way, I expect. And so I do have to laugh because I was thinking in my head that he reminds me a lot of Breece Hall, and then he went there. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, they're gonna have to carry Bo Nix's corpse across that field. I think that's what I kind of worry about. He's gonna get a lot of usage because he has to on that team. And just like Bijan, though, I think that all these guys are getting some usage here, so we could see that. But I agree. I think long speed is an issue. I love long speed, so I'm with you there. Like I value that in my running backs. Like when I see guys, that's why I'm kind of down in the 2022 class. Like not entirely, but not a lot of speed that goes on in that class. So I would agree there. All right, let's go to our fourth guy. Zach Evans is a guy that's hasn't been talked about a ton. 5'11", 195. He was highly recruited. Had kind of some head case issues. Last season he had 415 yards, 4 touchdowns. Jeff, what do you see with Zach?
He does have the long speed. He's got the explosion. He's a smaller package, and so I think we talked about it before, and I kind of comped him to Eric Gray a little bit, where I think that there's some development that needs to happen. But he can, if you give him a crease, he can be gone. And so physically, I think he's everything that you want to see. It's just that if he can refine and get to those places, some of those technical skills that you want to see out of running back. But I know you guys are very high on him, so I'd love to hear your take.
Yeah, I am high on him, but it's reliant, and I said this about Gainwell too, and it did not work out for me. My being high on him is relying on him gaining at least 10 pounds. And then seeing that before the season and then seeing if that burst is still there. I think it will be. I think if he does develop and if he kind of gets his footwork right behind the line of scrimmage, then I think right now I have him and Tank back to back. I actually have him above Tank just for that projection forward. There's a chance that changes. After it's when you see the 195, it always makes me nervous. But he's definitely a guy that we have to see him do it again this year. He was very, very explosive, and I expect that he'll be a featured part of that offense this year.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love him. I think he's an elite athlete. But to your credit, I love Gainwell too. But you saw these flash of athleticism. He's got to get that head figured out. He has some issues kind of with his maturity. And then the one thing that I will say, because I know we got to go, is that he dealt with COVID. He got COVID last year. Didn't have a preseason with the team. Then he was out for a couple games because of COVID-related issues. He didn't get the kind of same run as we saw with Bigsby. These other guys got right away because of the COVID issue, which is a real thing. So I am interested to see if he can get up in that weight and being a 5-star guy, set up his block. He's patient. He's a home run guy. I think that's a value. So that's where I'm at with him. I actually think he's a value in leagues right now, and in leagues where he's going, his ADP is running back 10. That's pretty good for a guy that we think could be running back 4 of this class. So that's kind of where I'm at right there. Our last guy, Jace McClellan from Alabama, we've kind of mentioned him already. We can be quick on him. 5'11", 23 attempts, 245 yards, 2 touchdowns. We've already kind of mentioned him a little bit. What is your opinion, Jeff?
He's got a great chance to be the running back 2 out of this class. The reality, if he seizes that job in Alabama, he's got physically what you want to see. And so he might be the best value that's sitting out there, maybe in all of C2C, because in 2023, by the time we get there, he could be running back 2.
Yeah. I echo that. He's my Devy RB10 right now. So I think I'm right along the same lines as both of you guys. I don't think that the opportunity to be the 2 in this class is as there just because I think so highly of those other guys, but I think this has a chance to be no, I can't say that. I'll get canceled. This could be one of the best running back classes we've ever seen, ever.
And we talk about get those 2023 picks, and I see some people talk about, everybody's saying that the next class is always better, and just go ahead and get 2022. No. 2023 is what you want to get.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, if I'm trying to rebuild and do this type of things, 2023, especially with these running backs, this is how you're going to rebuild. Now, don't give away the farm, obviously, we know that. But if you can get these 2023 picks, that's important to me. Jay's one of those guys I feel like we're sleeping on, and we've kind of already gone over it. But I do think running back 3 isn't out of the question, right? If his size is there, he'll leapfrog. He's going to leapfrog Zach Evans and Bigsby. If his size can get there with his speed, if he can kind of get that production, I could easily see some NFL team falling in love with him and be in that running back 3 category for sure. All right, well, those are our top 5 2023 running backs, and that's where we had to go down. And now we're going to move on, and we're going to go over to our sportsbook rundown.
Yeah. Jeff, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you've never watched before, we finish out the show by playing 3 different games. First thing is the Sportsbook Rundown. And so we're going to run through a handful of games, give you some predictions on who's going to win. And as you can see, I'm the current chain holder, and I actually won last week on the game. So I'm up 1-0 on our poker chip here. So Christian, what do we got?
Yeah, so I'm making the executive decision to cut this down in pretty much in half. So we are going to do one soccer game, we're going to do the NBA game, and then of course we have to fit in the hot dog eating contest because that is the best sport that will be on between now and next episode. So the first soccer game that I want to touch on would be Belgium versus Italy. We're going to pick a winner. Kevin, you're first. Who are you picking?
Yeah, I'm picking Belgium because Italy, after their showings in World War I and World War II, I just can't choose them. I'm a history guy, so I just can't choose them.
Yeah.
I'll take Italy.
I saw someone say that Italy was the best team left in the Euros. I disagree with that. I think Italy should have lost last game. So I'm going to go with Belgium. All right, the NBA game will be the Suns versus the Clippers. I do want to give a quick score update. The Hawks are just blowing out the Bucks. You love to see it without Trae Young.
Good for them. Good for
yes.
them.
So Kevin, who you picking? Suns Clippers, I believe tomorrow night.
I'm going Suns because Pandemic P is coming back.
Screw Reggie Jackson. You know what? I'm kind of a Pistons fan, and they threw a bunch of money at him, and all of a sudden this dude's like the best player in the playoffs, and so go Suns.
Yeah, I think the Suns need to get this one, or I get a little nervous for them. All right, hot dog eating contest. This one's a really, really easy pick. It's Joey Chestnut or the field. Kevin, who you picking this year?
Yeah, I'm picking Joey Chestnut because I can't go against the god, the hot dog god.
Is Joey Chestnut the best modern athlete? most dominant modern athlete in his field? I'm going to take Joey Chestnut.
Man, I can't wait until we get to like the Olympics time because this will be kind of fun.
Olympics will be fun.
That might be fun. Simone Biles, I think, is the best, most dominant athlete.
Okay.
But I'm picking Joey Chestnut because, of course, why wouldn't I? Dude's crazy. All right, so that'll do it for the Sportsbook Rundown. I'm sorry it was condensed, but I think this will make for, a tougher win. And we swept. Man, we might tie next week.
It's either going to be Italy versus Belgium is all of it. So
Yep.
All right, so we are going to go to Prospect Poker, and Prospect Poker here is where we're going to pick the rules of the game are simple. We're going to play poker. We're going to toss 3 cards on the river. Each holds 2. But for this one, we are going to reveal our best and worst college football traditions. So a little bit different today, going over some of our best traditions that we like and worse. So Christian, what is your best college tradition that you like?
I have to be careful with this one because Jeff's going to get upset. You love that ace turn. The Penn State whiteout is my favorite college tradition. I think they always pick a great game to do it. I think it's one of the most live college atmospheres. And shout out to one of my buddies, big Penn State fan. He argues tooth and nail that it's better than anything Ohio State does. And I love to see all of my Ohio State friends trash him. So I do think it is one of the best, though. And I turn an ace. So
all right. So we've got a 7 of hearts, a 7 of spades, a jack of hearts, and Christian turns up an ace of spades. And so my tradition, of course, dotting the I. It is a staple at Ohio State football. And so it's bring out a celebrity, bring out a senior that is notable in the achievement, and they dot the I. And so dotting the I is the best way to start a college football game, and it is the best tradition. And so I flip up. Oh 7
man.
of clubs. Let's go.
So Jeff won. All right. Kevin.
All right. My best college tradition for me is Enter Sandman, Virginia Tech. I think that is a fantastic one. I almost picked, and I forgot to put it up, but I almost picked Howard's Rock, touching the rock with Clemson coming down. But I couldn't do that. Enter Sandman, when they came in against, I think it was Notre Dame in the night game a few years ago, it was fantastic. I think it's one of the best college traditions out there. And just to see those kids hyped walking through the stadium, it gets me going every time.
All right,
Love
Kevin's turn, a 3 of hearts. All right, worst traditions.
Okay, yeah, I'll go first here. Notre Dame being on NBC. I'm sick of watching bad teams play on NBC. I think we deserve better football. Notre Dame has not been a good team. I'm sorry. Notre Dame fans. They're not that good. If you don't have a quarterback, you're not a good football team. You don't have a good quarterback yet, so get them off NBC.
All right, Christian's turn at 2 of clubs. Okay, so my worst tradition is conference realignment and the loss of rivalry games. And so, we talked about Bijan at Texas and Texas A&M. We don't have Texas A&M anymore. We don't have Nebraska, Oklahoma anymore. We don't have Kansas, Missouri anymore, or the backyard brawl. And so it is a crying shame that the importance of these games in college football, that these teams can't get over themselves and get these things scheduled. So, Texas has to play Northern UL Monroe or whoever it might be, and just play A&M, and let's get over it and just play these games. And so my turn, a 10 of spades. I'm still sitting pretty. So, Kevin, what do you got?
Yeah, mine is dotting the I. That is a trash-ass tradition. Like, first of all, it's overrated as hell. Like, anybody can dot an I. It's really not that hard. It's the most overrated tradition in college football. I don't know why we have to see it every Ohio State game. Like, it come up with something else. Like, why don't you, figure something else out there, your trash school. Like, I just hate it. This is my time, Jeff, not yours. So I do not like the dotting the I tradition. Like, it is just the most overrated tradition in the world. Like, it just is it's not cool. Like, it doesn't take any talent. It's just Ohio State trying to build it up. It's like a Buckeye. What the hell is a Buckeye? So it's just get rid of the dotting of the I. Like, oh, it's so great. Like, no, it's not. Like, it's just not. Get out of here. Just get
he
out
says with his Ohio State jersey on.
I don't want to talk about that either.
All right. Champion.
Jeff wins
Let's
again.
Go.
Back-to-back. First back-to-back winner, I believe, right?
I don't know. Kevin held it for a little while there, so Kevin might have done that already. Okay,
Yeah.
So last game, we've got blackjack trivia. So the only way to close it out here, play a little bit of blackjack with a little bit of trivia involved. And so let's go ahead and get everything set up here. All right. Sorry. We should change this order so that instead of talking. Every week is the same thing.
No, it's cool. This is a good time for us just to catch up. Like, I just want everybody to know that dotting I is trash. That's what I want everybody to know.
Okay, so Christian's turn. A 2 of clubs, a 9 of diamonds, and I've got a queen, a 13, and Kevin's got a blackjack. So
that's right.
Kevin wins. Okay.
Man, I got zero chips this time around. I'm pretty upset. Jeff, you get another FaceTime.
I do get another FaceTime. I just want to say we have Scott Fishbowl coming up next week, and the importance of networking and being friendly in the space. And you don't even have to be friendly. Just be a person and be reasonable and talk to people, get to know new people, because we're all in this space. We all share a passion. And the reality is we probably all share very similar backstories. And so, and a lot of people, we came into the space during COVID. We were looking for belonging, looking for a place to be involved. So we're all the same. And diversity is important. We'd love to see more diversity in the space, and we don't have anywhere near what we would love to see. But the reality is you don't need to be out here and complaining because you're not getting traction on your take that you're going to copy and say, I'm worried about Saquon Barkley's injury. So, let's just be friends and let's network and get to know each other. So I appreciate the opportunity to be 2-time defending champion. And again, just take advantage of this week, these different group chats that are going on, and enjoy Scott Fishbowl, and let's network and get to know each other.
Yeah, that's a good one. Also, I would like to add, make your profile picture, if it's not your Scott Fishbowl, band your face or something that lets us know who you are. That's my recommendation.
And if you have social anxiety like me, try to network you best you can. But I have a hard time with that. So do your best out there, and and have fun with the Scott Fish Bowl. So next week on July 6th, we will be opening up at 9:30 Eastern. Jeff's on vacation, but he's going to be hopping in with us because he's that guy. Be sure to catch us on the Going for Two family of pods. Until then, I'm Kevin Coleman at @boys_22.
I'm Jeff Bell at For Whom J Bell Tolls.
And I'm Christian Williams at C Williams NFL, and this is the Devy Royale.